Well, unless I have the mouse right there, and I think it goes away. It tells me it's recording, but now it doesn't. So I'm totally insecure about whether I'm recording or not. And if I'm not recording, then I want you to talk. And you see what that's going to do. Let's talk about design. There's some bad design out there. It's a bad, bad design. Okay. So hopefully Zoom brings itself back to sanity, because the people that design this are all smarter than heck. But when you put them together, they do dumb things. You never seen that happen, have you? A bunch of smart people get together and do something really dumb. Okay. I'm Dave Smith. Tells you that right at the beginning. Tells you where my office is. It'll be either here or over in the OTC building. I give you the office number. It's in the upper corner, as far away from here as you can be. It's kind of a nice corner office. Okay. I'm older than everybody else, so I guess I finally decided let me have that office. I'm almost middle-aged. So that's where you can find me during office hours. Usually I'll be in here. If I'm over there, I should leave a note. Sometimes I forget, or sometimes I'm in a hurry. Sometimes I don't know I'm going there, but something happens when I go someplace else. You know, so, you know, I try to keep that at a minimum. I try to be available. Sometimes I'm in a meeting and I'll usually put a note in the door. Okay. And when I'll be back. Sometimes I just step out for 5 minutes. I don't put a note in the door. Okay. And then sometimes, you know, maybe I walk around the building just to clear my head. They're just, and maybe somebody important, like maybe the governor or somebody sees me, hey, Dave, come here, need your advice. Okay. On education. Well, he's an educated guy, and he would take my advice anyway, because he's got his own ideas. Some are great ideas. Maybe I don't agree with their valid. So, yeah, aside from that, aside from my relationship with the governor, there might be reasons that I don't get back in 5 minutes. So I would apologize for that, but I try not to let that happen very often. But it can be unpredictable. Sometimes I see a student who just really needs to talk to me about something right there and then. And that's more realistic. Governor doesn't hang around campus that much. Okay. Over there in Petersburg or DC or Richmond or someplace like that. Okay. We got a course title and description. You're not going to understand the title or the description. But there is. And it's 3 credits, 3 hours a week. Required prerequisite knowledge. This is mine. This description comes from the system, which is to succeed in the course, you got to have a good mastery of the prerequisite courses through Algebra 2, Intermediate Algebra, or equivalent. Students who lack the preparation are strongly urged to enroll in the co-requisite MDE 61 support course, which is offered to students with a working knowledge of pre-algebra and Algebra 1. Now, when I say that, statistically in a group this size, there's a significant number of people that don't even have a really good concept of pre-algebra, although they've been through it. And yeah, with a little reminder, they can do okay. Okay. So hopefully nobody is in that shape, because it's very difficult to get through the course without that. You have to keep going back to what you should have known when you came in here. And I think I said in the last, in the support class, The courses you've had in high school, for example, are mostly taught to people who are never going to take pre-calculus. Because they just don't have the dedication. Maybe they have trouble, they have to twice. But teachers are required to pass them, so that's who the course focuses on. And the people at the higher level, which is people who would be taking pre-calculus, don't get everything they could. Now, some teachers do a better job than others of dealing with that and addressing the whole spectrum. But the bottom line is everybody's got to pass. It's not a good way to run education. It's not a good way to turn out people that support a technological society. It is maybe a good way to make people feel good about themselves. And that's also important. Okay. And I don't claim to know where the balance, but I'll say that when you get here, people tend not to be as well prepared as they could. And we're going to talk a little bit about how I've kind of redesigned the beginning of this course to accommodate that. Okay. Another comment, if I remember to do it, it's if I get in the habit, because I've always done it, and I think I will. I post the videos for both the intermediate algebra and the support course. I post a link to those videos on your Canvas page. I haven't done it, I don't think, but I will do that at some point. So you have those references. Because I'm not going to teach you algebra 1 or pre-algebra or even algebra 2 in this class. You know, give you enough to jog your memory, but if your memory doesn't jog, you're going to have to dig. And we also have tutors from the tutor center. Okay. This is pre-calculus. That's good. There's an optional advising tool, and I really recommend that you use it. See how your preparation is. Okay. Now, we actually did some research. I did it because one of our dual enrollment adjuncts included his pre-tests and he administered this test to students. Okay. And their results were all over the place. Okay. Some people appeared to be extremely well prepared. Some people appeared to have never sat in a math class before. I think they just weren't taking the test seriously. But our recommendations maybe are a little stronger than they need to be. In other words, it tells you if you scored this, you probably ready for pre-calculus. If you scored this, you should probably take the support course. If you scored this, you should probably go back to intermediate algebra. Okay. I broadened the spectrum a little bit. I'd say you're probably okay in pre-calculus. If you do a lot of work, it's a lot of work. Get used to that. If you're not spending 5 hours a week out of class in this course, you're not giving it what it might need. Okay. Now, if you're really good, had really good algebra 2, scored really well, and had a really good course, probably do it a lot less than that. But, in any case, you probably ought to take that test and tell me what you did on it. Okay, I'm not requiring it. I'm not going to be mad at you if you don't. Okay, but you ought to get that feedback because people tend to have, most people tend to be a little more confident in what they know than what they really know. Okay, just a human characteristic. Be a little further along in your education, some people come to the realization, oh, I don't know what I thought I knew. Okay, get a more realistic interpretation of that. You got to find out here. Okay, topics include relations and functions, something you might have seen in algebra two. But you know what a polynomial is? How many know what a polynomial is? Nobody raised their hand. So I'm not going to read those to you because they won't mean anything to you. But what I want you to do is every couple of weeks, go back and read over this, you know, over these topics and see, okay, now I know what this is. Now I know what this is. Now I know what this is. It kind of feels good to know. It's kind of a positive reinforcement and kind of gives you a picture of what you're learning. And it gives you perspective on the topics of the course, how they fit together. Okay. Now, I know there's about a 1 in 100 chance that anybody's going to actually do that, but I'm recommending that you do. Okay. You get busy. That's one of those things that's easy not to do, right? Try to learn to do, if not that thing, some other things that are really beneficial to you, that are really time efficient, that have a lot of bang for the buck. Spend 5 minutes every 2 weeks reading this. Doesn't take much time. You just got to remember to do it or think to do it. It's going to have benefit well beyond 5 minutes you put into it. Okay. I mentioned the workload. It's a heavy workload. Okay. Now it's not a heavy workload if you use ChatGPT to get all your answers. Okay. Do that, and you're almost guaranteed to fail, of course, but you know, it's a way to reduce your workload. Engage yourself with the material. Work it out. I do want you to have a dedicated notebook for this course. And I want you to write out your work. Okay? Right now, I'm reading a book. The name of the book is Vector. Well, you know, like vector calculus, third semester calculus, is something I know like the back of my hand. Okay? I've taught it probably close to 100 times. I nailed it as an undergraduate. I taught it as a graduate student at a pretty exclusive institution. Okay, so the first 2/3 of that book is just giving me the history of where all these notations and everything came from, which I found very useful and entertaining. The last part of the book develops from tensors into Einstein's theory of general relativity, which is one of the toughest things in the world. Okay, and you know, I changed my major from physics to math before I got to general relativity, which is probably a good thing. It would have killed me. It's very, very, yeah, most people don't have a prayer of understanding. One person out of 1,000. Okay. I don't think I'm that high. But I'm reading it and rereading it and rereading it. I'm not writing it down. If I'd have been writing it down, I'd know it. I mean, to the level that it's done in this book, which is a pretty strong level, but you're not going to do research in general relativity with what's in that book. My point is simply, I'm not writing it down because I usually read it when I wake up in the middle of the night, so it puts me back to sleep. Not necessarily the best time to learn something, but it's a time when it's probably a good thing to do. And I'm too tired to reach for pencil and paper. Okay. If I really needed to know it, that's what I'd be doing. Okay. I'm also testing myself to see if my brain will absorb this stuff as I slowly approach middle age. I think I passed that while. I don't know. I don't know. For you, the message is write out your doggone work. Okay. Write out the details because then you retain it. All right. I'm pretty sure that's true of 99% of the people. If you know that you're not one of those 99%, choose another method. Okay. Do what works for you. But write it out. Don't do your homework You're letting ChatGPT take you through it one step at a time. Don't do your homework, preferably by looking at example in the book and imitating it, although sometimes you got to do that. Okay, but get to the point where, well, the way the homework's designed, a third to half of the homework has videos with it. Okay, you have text embedded within the open math that has examples. Okay, half to 2/3 of the problems don't have videos or explanations. You have to dig with it. And that's where you start learning. I want you to have the videos. I want you to have the examples because you need those to get started, but then you got to do the independent stuff. Okay. And you got to engage yourself. Okay. Don't do this stuff while you're watching, doing social media or watching TV or whatever. Okay. Dedicate the time, concentrate on it. You'll learn it better in less time. Engage yourself in the material. Okay. I say the course will be conducted by a combination of asynchronous and synchronous activities. Asynchronous means the stuff you do out of class, like okay. And maybe some other stuff. In class, it's interactive. We'll get a taste of that here in a little while because we're going to do some stuff. As soon as I start raving, as soon as I stop raving around what I'm saying here in my syllabus. But typically, we begin the class with a quiz over recent assignments. Okay, now this quiz, I'll take them up. They'll be graded. They'll be part of your grade. Not a big part, but enough that if you blow them away, you'll lose a later grade. Maybe if you blow them off, not blow them away. You blow them away, don't blow them off. Okay. I'll circulate typically while you're doing that quiz. And sometimes I'll give you that little pointer because I'm not that big on it, but usually I'll just let you do it. And then I'll get an idea of what people are getting, what they aren't getting, and we'll work through. And I'll make the comments that you need to hopefully put everything together. Okay. Now hopefully everybody does real well in the quizzes. If you've done the homework, the quiz is going to be similar. And if you're consistently getting 100% in your homework and never doing anything right in the quiz, I know what you're doing. I'm not going to penalize you because I know that. You're penalizing yourself. You're going to fail. Okay, I don't have to do any more than let you fail and warn you about it. Say, some of you aced the homework, did everything right, got it real well. And you came into class and the thing that you did last night or the night before, you can't do it. There's something wrong here. You do the homework to prepare yourself for a quiz on stuff like the homework. Mandatory attendance. Make sure you're here. No, if I have a couple of quick calculus classes last year, I had one where, well, several people decided it was too much work and disappeared. Okay, people who were left were always there. Very seldom somebody not there. Okay. And if they weren't there, they usually emailed me and told me, well, you're not required to do that, but there was usually a good reason. Or they come and tell me next time. Okay. Yeah, that people had COVID, that's a good reason not to be here. For you and everybody. And they'd always done homework. Okay. I could see it. Yeah, they had it right there. Well, I want you to have it in your notebook and I want it to be right there when you do the quiz. Okay. So I can take a look at it if I have time or our need. And a couple of those people, life got in the way and stuff. didn't have time to complete the course, they eventually withdrew. But everybody else passed. And some with pretty good grades. Okay. Then another class had a different semester. I started out, well, there was a snow day at the beginning, it was spring semester, there was a snow day. Okay. That kind of got things off to a shaky start, but the second day, people were there, they seemed like they were really good. I'm gonna have a good class here. And people started coming every second or third week once. Okay. That class did not turn out to be very successful. Okay. I'm not going to tell you how unsuccessful it is. About as unsuccessful as the class could be. It was just attendance. It was not aptitude. And in a lot of cases, they told me what's going on in their life. There was, real life problems. Just couldn't get it together to do it for very good reasons. Okay. Now the whole point out of that, and I think that wasn't last year. That was a couple of years ago. But that, those are the kind of things that happen. Okay, I want you to be more like the first class than the other class. They were good people. There's nothing wrong with the people. There's nothing wrong with their preparation or anything, but the ability to get it done. And I think life was getting in the way in many cases. So do what you got to do. Get it done. Be here. There's a big note about AI. Engage, don't use AI to do your homework. You can use AI to learn. You want to ask AI a question general about how do you solve a quadratic equation, go ahead. You probably will get a pretty good explanation on that. Now, sometimes AI goes haywire. So you can't necessarily trust it. You better check it against what your textbook is telling you or what I'm telling you. But, AI can be very beneficial if you use it properly. And if you keep a little skepticism and double check. Okay. We don't use calculators much, but you do need a calculator for some basic arithmetic. We don't graph by calculator. Okay, that's not how you graph things. You graph things by sketching the graph, and you get a real good within the next week or two idea of how to do that. It's not that hard, but you got to learn it. We'll learn it step by step. Okay, that's kind of where we start. It's graphs. It's really important to be able to understand graphs. It's one of the things you actually carry away from this course. And it's one of the things that benefits you most when you go into the next course. Because if you're taking pre-calculus, it's presumed that you'll be taking a calculus or applied calculus course later. Although not everybody does. Maybe a statistics course. This is also prerequisite for statistics. Okay. But it is pre-calculus, and we're trying to prepare you for calculus. Learning to understand and read graphs is going to be very valuable for statistics. That's all the further you go after this. Okay? And that's perfectly valid. There are engineering calculus courses, which most people don't take unless they're already in the engineering curriculum, but you're welcome. And there's applied calculus, which is a considerably easier version of calculus, not all that much harder than this course. And actually easier than pre-calculus too. Okay. Get your homework done on time so I can review it before class so I know what you're doing. Okay. Now we'll address it next time. You can do it late for half credit, but I don't have the page set up to do that on. But I will by the end of the week. It's easy to do. Anything I could put off until it needs to be done, I kind of had to do that. Something got crazy last week. You got the broad goals and purpose of the course. It'll make more sense to you after you've seen a little bit. You can read it. But it's mathematical functions. It's a study of mathematical functions. Okay. How many know what a mathematical function is? See, no point in reading this. You will know within a couple of weeks. You'll know a little bit by the time you leave here in 40 minutes. Okay? And you'll have a basis for knowing a whole lot more. There are specific objectives, talk about the areas to be covered. You can read those things, but they won't mean anything to you. If I read them to you, so I'm not going. Read those things. Textbook is embedded in the Milton math site. Okay, make sure you see it. Make sure you read when you get into Milton math. And how many of you guys have gotten into Milton math? Some of you have. There are at least some names. Read the Canvas instructions and do what it says because you have homework. Okay? It'll be due before next class. It'll be due by midnight tomorrow. One thing is the introduction to Milton math. And the other thing, I think it's summer. Does go through Milton math, but you need to be prepared to do next class. It's easy. Okay. And there might be something else in Milton math, but I don't think so. Okay, so yeah, there's a textbook, chapter headings, functions, linear functions, polynomial and rational functions, exponential, logarithmic functions, systems of equations and matrices. How much of that did you understand? Some, but probably not most of them. If you didn't understand functions, you probably didn't understand a lot of the rest. And maybe you did understand functions, you didn't want to show off and raise your hand. Maybe your arms are tired. That's okay too. Okay. Written work. Notebook is required. Write out your stuff. Okay. Keep a record. It'll be valuable to you when you review for the tests and exams. Tests and exams are given in the testing center. Proctored. Don't worry about cheating over there. Okay. Very good. And I think I mentioned there's a specific calculator you get to use over there. Maybe I didn't. You don't get to take your own calculator in. Okay. You put stuff on your calculator. It's not terrible to everybody. Just a very basic Casio FX260 calculator. If you go over there and ask them to loan you one while you're there, you can make sure you understand how to operate it so you don't go into the test and have to figure out how to operate the calculator before you do calculations. A lot of the calculations you can do in your head are just very simple. There is a common assessment at the end of the test, at the end of the semester, where everybody in all pre-calculus courses gets assessed. Many of the problems in that assessment are random, and the random problems don't count toward your grade. But mixed in with those random problems, there are problems that look a lot like the random problems that are in your grade, so you're going to have to do all the problems. Okay. We get some very interesting results out of that. Tests are graded every point on a 10-point scale. And I tell you, 10 points if it's all right, 7 points if it follows valid reasoning process, is substantially correct with some errors in detail. 5 points for any reasonable attempt at a solution. Some credit for anything that's halfway relevant. And no points if nothing is halfway relevant. Okay. You can't read one of those sentences, but read the online version, which is more complete. Use of email. Don't email me if you can. Just email me from your BCCS account. Okay. If you send me attachments like pictures of your work, preferably use a scanning app. If you have a smartphone, you can get a scanning app. That's the most convenient way to do it. If you want to send me JPEGs, try to get them into one document and send them. If you've got to send me a bunch of separate JPEGs, okay, because I can usually pretty well, if you send them through the right email, just kind of go from one to the other. Make sure they're visible, make sure they're legible. Okay, my eyes are pretty good. I don't have to wear glasses to read this. Of course, I wrote it, so I know what it says. But it's a little blurry. Okay, I got some early cataracts. Going to be a while before they operate on it. Will probably be half time before they say they're ready to be operated on. So the computer screen can be a little hard for me to read if it's not really legible. If it's not really legible, I'm just going to email you back and say, I tried, redo these to make them clear. Try to write kind of big and try to write kind of bold. Okay, now would use something that makes a dark image. Try to use legible handwriting. Pretty good reading legible handwriting. So, and if you got a whole page of stuff that's not written very big, use 2 pictures. Top of the page, bottom of the page. Okay? Understand what I mean? I got to be able to read it. Yeah, but it's like surprised to be almost middle aged and still be able to see everything well, but I do use reading glasses and computer glasses. But I think the cataract thing is the only problem. Supposed to be this high. Okay, now you got disabilities. The disability people are in that hall right there through the back wall. Okay. There's also a women's bathroom there. Don't go there for disabilities, but you know, in the far hall there, you got people who deal with that sort of things. They give you who to talk to. Okay. Like some people just don't process things or they have trouble with one thing or another and need extra time on tests. Almost always, if somebody needs an accommodation for disability, that's it. Well, if that's your disability, you don't have to tell me. You get unlimited time on the test anyway. Some people need a reader for the test. Their eyes are worse than mine. Okay. Yeah, so there are various aspects of that. Okay. If you got something like that, go talk to people. Or one thing or another. I don't see anybody with an obvious physical disability, but if there is one, you have to talk to them. Their accommodations. Academic conduct, read the BHCC handbook, but do your own work, no exceptions. Don't cheat, don't fabricate, don't facilitate dishonesty. In other words, don't help somebody else cheat. Okay. Plagiarism, don't represent ChatGPT's work as your own. Okay. Unauthorized examination behavior, well, testing center won't allow you to do that. Don't even try. It's official policy, so don't mess with it because you can have really serious repercussions. Okay. Generally, if you do those things, you're going to be penalized anyhow by failing the course or not getting through. College-wide emergency, we do have tornadoes here. I don't recall any instance where we had anybody using threatening or disruptive behavior. To the point of we had to get the police involved. And if you've seen our chief of police, you don't want him restraining you. He'd probably do it gently because he's big enough, but he doesn't have to try very hard. Good guy to have on your side, and he's on your side. Okay. But if there's an emergency, there's a number you ought to put in speed dial. Okay. Their email addresses and stuff, college website, and so forth. All that information. BHCC deadlines, right here. Why isn't it right there? Left date out of class. Oh, never mind, no, no. That date is, last day to pay. It says last day to add a class. Okay, that was yesterday. Last day to add a class is, I think, Friday. And I'll correct that in the official version by the end of the week, okay? Last day to drop a class and get a refund is the 11th. It's also the day on which, if you haven't done substantive work in the course and so forth, if you haven't done pretty much anything, even if you're here every day, I'm going to kick you out. With the hope that you'll come to me and say, hey, can I feel this? And I'll say, yeah, do this, this, and this, and I'll put you back in. Because I don't want to lose you. Because you lose. Okay, I don't want you to lose. And the whole class loses. Then there's a withdrawal date on the 26th or 30th of October. Last day to withdraw and avoid the possibility of failing. You would get a W on the transcript. If you think you're going to withdraw, if you do it before the 11th, and it's like you never were here. In other words, nothing goes in your transcript. Okay, you get a refund. After that, you don't get a refund, and at least the W goes in your transcript. Okay. There's some details. I do post the college calendar, so you can read through that. It's there for your reference. And we do have mental health support, because anything that endangers your mental health, it's pre-calculus. If you find yourself over your head, anxiety, think your future's being ruined, and because other things in your life, it's just not getting done, or just, other things in your life get overwhelming, even if your courses are going well. That's a mental health emergency. If it's causing you not to be able to sleep, if it's causing you not to be able to do the rational things you need to do to get through it, okay? And there are worse mental health emergencies. So looking into your eyes, I don't see more than 2 or 3 people that I think are danger to everybody. So, if you're a danger to everybody, it's a mental health emergency. So, for all of us, y'all look okay. Okay, but my daughter's just about to take her boards where she can practice psychiatry. Okay, and she's already her institution's creating a job for her, and she might be able to look at you and tell better. Okay, she had a lot of experience, being raised by me. Okay. Anyhow, the whole point is, get help if you need it. It's all confidential. Nobody's going to know unless you tell them. Okay. And we have some good resources, including the place that that daughter works. You wouldn't be working with her. Going to do it with children and adolescents. Okay, good. Now let's do some incredibly wonderful and significant mathematics. You can use your notebook, or you can grab a sheet of scrap paper. There's a stack of scrap paper pretty much at each cluster or each table. And when we do quizzes, which we're not going to do today, if you're not going to hand it in, you want to do enough scrap paper because we don't want to be running your notebooks paper through our scanners. Okay? And things up. It can, I'm sorry. Incidentally, here's a couple of things I did at the end of my MDE class about exponents and rules of exponents. I recommend you go to that video, the last probably 5 or 6 minutes of it. I'll specify that and look at what I'm doing. Because it's stuff that I will bet over 50% of the class needs right now. There's a reason I started that in the support class. Now, what I'm gonna do now is not done in this fourth class. Because nobody else does it. Yeah, no criticism of them, it's just I've come to realize that algebra is a real stumbling block for people at the beginning of this course. So if I start with algebra, we start with pictures. But everybody quickly draw a square on their paper, a large square, at least this big. Well, no, if your paper's not that big, you can't make it this big. Make it as big as you can on the paper. A square or a rectangle, a big rectangle would be okay too. Okay, that's not big enough. Make it big. When I said big, I mean big. People tend to draw their graphs and other things too small, and you're going to see why you want to make it big. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've looked at most of them. Let's go over here. Let's see. You'll be able to pick up. Okay. Control. Okay, that's good rectangle. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see how I can do. I'm kind of proud of that one, but you know, if I look at it from this angle, I don't have good right angles there and there, but it's kind of okay. I'm sure you did better because you have lines in your paper and you're not looking at it from the side. Oh man, when I look at it on the screen, it really sucks. Anyhow, that'll do. And if yours is no better than mine, first of all, you have my condolences. Secondly, it's okay. But you know, try to make them as accurate as you can. Okay, now, can you put a vertical line right through the middle? Okay, that's good. Everybody's doing that real quick. It's close to the middle than I'm ever gonna get. Okay, now let's see, everyone, put a bit of draw here. Okay. Now vertical line means line like the flush. Here. No. There. A little too far to the left, but it's close enough. It's obvious that that's what I mean by the middle, even though that half looks a little bigger than this half because I didn't do it very accurately. I'm just trying not to show off. Okay. Okay. Now, can you draw a little vertical line halfway from the left edge to the middle? That's horizontal. You can leave it there because I will have you do horizontal lines.
Okay.
But a vertical line halfway from the left edge to the middle. You did go left edge to the middle. That's horizontal. You leave it there because you're going to have to go horizontal. Make it a vertical line, left edge, halfway from the left edge to the middle. Yeah, it goes all the way down. Now, that one is not what we want to do. Specified, okay? We can take this one all the way down to the end. That one won't really hurt either because we're not. leave it there because. Okay. Okay, so what I'm talking about, and I haven't looked at all of them, but some people are doing horizontal lines, so need to do vertical, and that's kind of harmless. Okay. So what I meant was. Okay. So what we did was, first we cut the thing in half with a vertical line. Then we cut the left half in half. Okay, halfway from the left edge to the middle. Okay. Now do the same thing on the right. Halfway from the right edge to the middle. And well, I'm confident. I don't need to go around, take time looking. Get tired of walking, it's a long ways. Everybody's pretty good. Okay. And you know what I'm saying, I haven't looked at everybody, but it doesn't look like this. Now, some people, when I asked to do the second line, did a horizontal line from here to the middle. Well, they got that right. It's from the left edge to the middle, but that's horizontal. Vertical would be this. Now, if you've got a horizontal line from the left edge to the middle, okay, everybody did it in the center. So actually, you've got half your line drawn already. But what I want is a horizontal line that cuts the whole thing in half. Cut the square in half with a horizontal line. I've got the room arranged so I can look at what everybody's doing. Also, it's kind of nice to have clusters of people talk to each other. Okay, so horizontal line, left edge to the middle. I think everybody's got what I've got here. Okay. Okay, now listen carefully. Horizontal line halfway from the last horizontal line you drew to the bottom. Horizontal line, and it's halfway from the last horizontal line you drew to the bottom, to the lower edge. Now, some people are better at processing verbal information than others. Okay. You're not seeing it in writing. And I was wondering, you need to see things in writing. Mess this up, you know, it's forgivable. Horizontal line halfway from that last horizontal line, the lower edge. Pretty good. There. Okay. Okay. I've looked at absolutely every one, but I looked at most of them, and you know, I like what I'm seeing. Okay, it's gonna be here. Now, my last instruction was halfway from the last horizontal line you drew to the lower edge. Okay, well, follow that instruction again. Halfway from the last horizontal line you drew to the lower edge. So you're all showing me that you can process verbal information, even when I garble it. Okay. Yeah, looking good. Yeah, the nice thing about drawing it big is I can see them. I have to string, which means I can do a lot of things. Okay, you know what? We're going to iterate that instruction again. Iterate means follow it again. And then when you do that, once more. We're going to iterate the instruction twice. I gotta say, that's the best job I've ever seen in class doing this. Seriously. I see people making all kinds of bizarre mistakes, going a third of the way instead of halfway, going the same distance every time. And I mean, most people do it right. But, so, okay, well, your picture then should look like this. There it is. And now in a minute, you're going to draw a curve of the toolkit exponential function. That's all you need, and a rule. And the rule's really easy. Before we do that, sometimes you got to keep iterating a little longer. Okay? How many more times do you think you could iterate that instruction before you couldn't draw it anymore? Pull up your fingers. You can't do it 10 more times. I guarantee you. Okay, so people, yeah, everybody hold up some number of fingers. Yeah, at least two, so you don't use the wrong finger in the wrong way. Okay, most people are saying 1, 2, or 3, and nobody's using their middle finger for 1. That's good. Now, yeah, certainly I could do one more. I could do another one, but then I'd have trouble because the chalk line is too wide. It's getting down there too close. Okay, and it's also hard to keep the line perfectly straight and keep it in between the other lines. But even theoretically, with the thinnest pencil you can imagine, if it's visible, you can't do it 10 more times. If you did it 10 more times, you'd be 1,000 times closer to that lower line than this. Then you can't go 1,000 times closer with any line that you can draw with a pencil. Okay, now that doesn't mean you can't talk about it. Okay, we can say, okay, draw the next 20 lines. Can't draw them, but you know they're theoretically there. But by the time you get up to that 20th line, you're 1,000,000 times closer, 1,000 times closer than the one that was 1,000 times closer, if you can imagine that. That's worth pondering. Okay, and you really can't imagine that. Okay, you're down into the submicroscopic range. Okay, go another level of that, and you're down to the subatomic range. Okay. In other words, iterate that from here 10 times, and you're down to size of large bacteria. Okay. 10 more times, you're down to the size of maybe large molecules. 10 more times, and you're inside the radius of an atom. 10 more times, now the nucleus is starting to get visible. 10 more times, you're inside the nucleus. That's only 50 times. Draw 50 lines real quick, but you can't draw something that's so small it would fit inside the nucleus. Okay. All right, well, that's just an aside scale, and that's kind of, again, that's worth pondering. Big numbers, small numbers, and stuff like that, because exponential processes get big and get small. And this is kind of an exponential process when you do this. Well, enough about words that you don't yet understand, but now you're going to understand what the shape of an exponential function is. Third thing, you can put a red dot here. Now you probably don't have red. I'm using red to distinguish it. Okay, let's put a big dot right there at the center, the halfway point on the lower edge. Now, I'm going to give you this one vertically, verbally, one of those V words. Okay. Want you to put a little X. Okay, but little terminology. Except for the edge lines, these are what we call the construction lines. You know, the 3 lines you drew here and the 4 lines you drew here. Okay. So on the construction line closest to the lower edge, can you identify the construction line closest to the lower edge? I think you can. At the left edge of the square, put a little X. Well, everybody that I've looked at has pretty much done that. A couple little ambiguities, just gives us an ability to see closely enough. Okay. Now, the only flaw I see in what some of you are doing is you're putting the X close to that point, but we want the X right on that point. Meaning, well, here's the lowest construction line, right? And here's the left edge. That means the point is going to go here. Not here or here or here, not close, but right on. So the middle of that X to go through the point where those 2 lines intersect. Okay, and that's what most people are doing, but some people thought close was good enough. Nah. Okay. What we're going to get is a pretty accurate graph of an exponential function. Better you draw it, the more accurate it is. And you could actually use this function to predict the value of an investment 20 years down the road, if you know just a little bit. I'm not going to tell you you need to do that, but I could in 2 minutes. And I will later. Not going to take the time to do it today. You can predict how many bacteria are going to be on that food you left out too long after 7 hours, if you had just a little bit of information like the doubling time. Okay? That's what 2 things exponential functions are good for. I spent the summer doing a project I should have been able to do in 2 weeks, which is extending my deck. That's 46 feet long. The extension is going to be 8 feet wide. It's not a big deal. Okay. The only hard thing was, lifting heavy 16-foot 2x10s into position 8 feet high. Okay. So I had to get creative about that because my arms don't go any higher than this because of the football matrix. Okay. So that's pretty heavy. Easy enough to carry them, but especially if the shoulders are loaded. Okay. The point is now, And that's not relevant to anything, but there are holes. I'm extending an old deck. I could have done the new deck in 2 weeks if I'd have torn down the old deck, but then I wouldn't have been extending the old deck. So fitting it in and getting all the levels right and everything, raw pain. If you've ever done construction, you know what I mean. If not, just take my word for it. I got to dig some holes, about this big around, about that deep. It's heavy clay, but it's easy to dig. So digging the holes is no big deal. But then one of those holes keeps filling with water. It'll fill with water and then it'll go down. And then it'll fill with water and then it'll go down. I don't know where it's coming from. There's a spring on the hill across the street. The spring would be filling, as far as I can figure it, the holes on that side, not this side. I'm hypothesizing that the depth of water in that thing, when it goes down exponentially. The more water that's in it, faster it'll go down. Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay. Another thing is I gradually approach middle age, I got to make sure I stay flexible. Okay. So, I bent over and I try to touch my knee. Watch my hand. Everybody see my hand? See my knee? Well, you see it's that one. Oh, that showed off. I really don't have any trouble touching my knee. That goes a different story. Okay. Now, it hurts. But I go down pretty fast. The closer I get to my knee, the slower I go because those tendons are stretching and resisting. And there's a limit to how far my tendons will stretch. Oh my gosh, I got to the bottom of my knee. That's the first time. That's okay. Well, the point is, the thing I just described, if the model is correct, if the rate at which I can stretch the tendon is linearly dependent on how much I've already stretched it, okay? Then I have an exponentially decreasing function. And I can predict how far, if I go to physical therapy and try to learn to touch my shin, just how far it's reasonable to try to stretch that tendon on a given day, given what I did the other day. Okay? So there are practical applications. Take a turkey out of the oven at Thanksgiving time, it should exponentially approach room temperature. A long curve that looks like this one if you just turn it upside down or backwards or whatever. Okay, so now here's your rule. You're now going to have an expertise that 99.9% of the population doesn't have, but could if they took 30 minutes to learn to do it. So it's not like you're achieving mastery of Einstein's theory of relativity, but you're still getting a significant piece of knowledge for very little effort. Right? Now we've got to put algebra around this, but that comes much later in the semester. Why am I starting with it? Because it's easy for one to understand. Okay. So now what I want you to do from this point, I want you to move over one line and up one line. And put an X. Well, what do you think you're going to do next? You're going to iterate that. What does that mean? It means do it again. Go over one line and up one line. Okay. So well, if I go over one and up one, I go here. If I go over one and up one, I end up here. Okay. Now iterate that twice more. You did one too many iterations of these, but you're still gonna get an exponential curve.
Oh, yeah.
You got one too many lines here, but that's harmless. This is now your original rectangle. You can erase the rest of it if you wanted to, but you don't have to erase it. Okay. Some of you put, and I've seen it in a couple of others, some people were having so much fun iterating this process that they iterated, you know, this, one too many times. That's okay, because next time we're gonna see another function, your basic quadratic function, which requires you to iterate it that one extra time. So you already know what it feels like to iterate it a fifth time. It's no big deal, okay? And you still get an exponential curve, okay? If you'd had an extra line here, you would have ended up here. You could just say, okay, well, this is my original rectangle here, and cross the rest of it out, okay? Still be good, still be a good exponential curve. But if you did just 4 iterations, you would end up in the upper right-hand corner. Make sense? And if you didn't end up in the upper right-hand corner, just say, okay, this is my upper right-hand corner. The rest of this is your imagination. It's not really there. Okay? That's not the problem. Okay, now sketch a smooth curve through these points. I kind of missed that one because I'm no good, but so you go ahead. Okay? Make sense? Now let me give you a quick interpretation. We're out of time, but it's worth seeing this interpretation. It just takes 30 seconds. If this represents $1,000 in an account, and if the account doubles every 10 years, and if this represents 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, so this scale is in decades, and this scale is in thousands, that's 1,000, 2,000 after a decade, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000, and that's over a reasonable expectation of your lifetime. Now, of course, inflation has something to do with what happens, what the value of that. $16,000 would be, okay? But usually, historically, values tend to increase faster than inflation. Not always, like in the last few years. Okay. Good. Look forward to seeing you next time. Y'all did really well today. Keep doing it and learn to do this, because the quiz is going to be draw this thing without reference to notes.